In Dubai, or the Eye of Dubai, is now officially the world's tallest and largest observation wheel, standing over 250 metres tall and with a capacity of 1,750 passengers at any one time. 82 metres taller than its predecessor, Eye of Dubai represents the single greatest increase in height for this type of structure, something that could only have been achieved in a place like Dubai.
So in terms of structural challenges, I don't think you compare the Eye of Dubai with any other wheels. And I probably would say that just because it is by far the largest. And without getting too technical, a lot of the stress relationships are a squared factor. So it's not just a linear proportion. So it gets twice as big, the stresses get twice as big. It's actually a squared relationship. And we were pushing the bounds of engineering on this wheel probably more than any other wheel has done before.
Turkey has a new bridge and it's big. We mean really big.
The world's longest suspension bridge.
Longest suspension bridge the world has ever seen.
Suspension bridge lies over the Dardanelles Strait,
linking Turkey's east and west.
It's the longest suspension bridge in the world, spanning 4.6 kilometres across the Dardanelles Strait. If you put it in London, it would dominate the skyline and rise higher than the Shard, the tallest building in Western Europe. This remarkable feat of engineering quite literally connects Europe to Asia and crosses one of the most important and busiest trade routes in the world. But constructing it wasn't easy, and the $2.8 billion mega project had to withstand earthquakes, storms, and some politics. Two enormous 318-metre high towers were planned on either end of the strait, supporting the 2-kilometre main span between them, the longest of its kind in the world. A pair of 59,000-ton caissons were submerged some 40 metres below the surface, one on the European side and one on the Asian side of the water. They would act as the tower's waterproof foundations. Additional steel platforms were then attached so the towers could be mounted above sea level.
There's a number of high environmental and accidental loads that we are considering. The wind load, we are concerned for aerodynamic stability, and we are of course concerned with earthquake. We are concerned with the ship impact loads, but also a very special consideration for such a bridge here is to be able to handle the traffic loads. But of course wind is the first and primary concern for such a long suspension bridge is aerodynamic stability.
The Turkish government wanted the bridge to be opened in time for the country's centennial in 2023, and that put a strict deadline on every element of construction.
The prefabrication requirement was primarily coming out of a request for fast construction time. We have had a very tight construction schedule for this bridge being one of the challenges, so actually today it's not even 5 years since we started on this project.
Once the towers were finished, the cables between them were then strung strand by strand in a process that took more than 162,000 kilometres worth of wire. That's enough to loop around the globe 4 times. The main deck was then suspended from the cables an incredible 72 metres clear of the water. The strait is notorious for strong winds and large annual storms, so the deck was built with a twin-box girder structure with a 9-metre gap in between. That helps wind to pass through the bridge more easily and improves its stability.
The theatre lift consists of lifting a 1,700-seat theatre in its entirety 30 feet from its current elevation.
More than just the curtain is being raised in this plan to build the biggest and most cutting-edge entertainment venue in Times Square. First, the existing tower was partly demolished and a structure was put in place to support the remaining floors. The basement was then made ready for the lift, and the steelwork above the theatre was cleared to give it room to move into. One of the most challenging parts of the project was clearing the theatre's basement to allow for the installation of some 34 specially designed lifting posts, while not undermining the 48-storey building that remained overhead. The main phase began on February 14th of 2022. The hydraulic jacks lifted the theatre box in 12cm strokes. After each of these movements, a team of consultants performed a thorough inspection of the structure before any work continued. After 7 painstaking weeks, the lift was finally completed on April 5th. One of the world's most ambitious construction projects is being built right here, in the middle of a desert. 6 of the Middle East's wealthiest countries have come together to construct a railway that will stretch for more than 2,000 kilometres and better connect the region. But with desert sands to cross and mountains to tunnel through, the project's challenges are immense, and matched only by the price tag that comes with tackling them. If it works, the new line could unite the Gulf, reshape its transportation sector, reduce its carbon footprint, and kickstart a whole new era of economic development. Welcome to the $100 billion railway in the desert. If you've ever travelled through Penn Station in New York City, chances are you might have run into something like this. This 110-year-old two-track tunnel beneath the Hudson River carries 200,000 people a day, and it's crumbling. Between 2014 and 2018, major failures caused 65,000 minutes of train delays. That's roughly 45 days of this, or this, or this. Fixing this relatively humble tunnel between New York and New Jersey has been dubbed one of the most important infrastructure projects in America. That's because these delays don't just impact New Yorkers. The tunnel is a bottleneck for America's busiest passenger railroad from Boston to Washington, D.C. When it fails, 20% of the nation's GDP gets put on hold. If just one track were to close, it could cost the country $16 billion.
This is where they are building the largest nuclear fusion reactor in the world. Right now, I am inside the assembly hall of the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor in the south of France. And just behind me back there is where scientists and engineers are working to replicate what happens inside the sun. Now, this is so much more than just another energy project. It's a $22 billion science experiment between a whole host of nations all coming together to try and change how we generate power on this planet.
ITER's mission to create a new carbon-free energy source couldn't be more urgent. Global energy use is projected to nearly double by 2050, and we've got to drastically cut our use of fossil fuels. Some scientists hope that controlled nuclear fusion could be the holy grail of energy, but there's a catch. As it stands right now, no reactor has ever been able to produce more energy through nuclear fusion than it takes in. ITER's aiming to be the first, and if it's a success, it could quite literally change the world.